Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive straight into the hidden tug-of-war that's driving, well, pretty much every single business on the planet. From the local coffee shop on your corner to massive global corporations, there are these incredibly powerful, often conflicting forces shaping their every move. Today, we're going to map out exactly what those forces are. Okay, let's look at our roadmap. We've got 5 main stops today: setting the business target, chasing profit and growth, finding a purpose beyond just making money, meeting the stakeholders, and finally, the stakeholder tug-of-war. We're taking you from pristine corporate goals right down into the messy human realities. All right, let's jump right into part 1, setting the business target, which is really the absolute foundation of any business. So before a company can actually do anything, it needs an anchor. We called this an objective. It's basically a target that a business works towards. Think of it kind of like a student aiming for an A on a big test. Without that clear aim, day-to-day operations just become totally reactive. You're just spinning your wheels. Setting a clear goal is what focuses all that raw corporate energy into actual forward momentum. But, why even bother? Well, because objectives drive literally everything else. They give teams the motivation they need to chase down a specific finish line. They also make decision-making so much easier. A manager just has to ask, hey, is this move going to help us hit our target? Plus, they create unity. It gets everyone rowing in the exact same direction. And at the end of the day, they give you a baseline for measuring success so you can actually prove whether or not your whole strategy worked. Moving right along to section 2, we're looking at chasing profit and growth, specifically what drives the private sector. At its core, profit is just simple math, right? Revenue minus total costs. But for private businesses, that leftover surplus is absolutely everything. And it's not just a metric of corporate greed. It's the essential reward for taking on massive financial risk. Plus, it gives the company the vital fuel it needs to actually fund future growth and innovation. Now, this financial focus actually shifts pretty dramatically as a company grows up. Step 1 is just pure survival. This is absolutely crucial for brand new startups or, say, during a brutal economic recession. Once things stabilize, you hit step 2, growth. Increasing your output lowers your average costs and helps lock in your market position. And finally, step 3 is generating returns for the shareholders, stuff like boosting dividends and share prices to reward the folks who own the place. Alongside that growth comes the absolute battle for market share. If you picture the whole industry as a giant pie, market share is simply your specific slice. You figure it out just by taking your company's sales and dividing it by the total market sales. It's basically the ultimate scoreboard for how dominant a brand is compared to its rivals. Okay, let's pivot a bit for section 3. Purpose beyond just profit, exploring social and public goals. Because let's be real, the word business doesn't automatically mean a traditional profit-hungry corporation. If you contrast the private sector's laser focus on survival, profit, and growth with a social enterprise, it's night and day. Social enterprises are basically juggling 3 distinct objectives all at once: social, environmental, and financial. They might prioritize, say, providing jobs for marginalized groups or protecting local ecosystems, all while still generating enough financial surplus to pump right back into those noble causes. And then, of course, you've got the public sector. These are organizations owned by the government. Think state railways or public health services. Their targets are a completely different animal. They have to hit strict financial budgets set by the state, they need to provide a highly reliable public service, and they have to hit vital social goals. That often means keeping jobs in rural or poorer areas where standard private businesses just wouldn't even bother going. Which brings us to section 4. Meet the stakeholders, the actual people involved in all this. So what exactly is a stakeholder? It's any person or group with a direct interest in the performance and activities of a business. Basically, these are the folks watching a company's every single move. They care deeply about strategic decisions because those choices are directly impacting their lives, their wallets, or their communities. There's a really clear divide here between who is inside the house and who is outside. Internally, you've got owners who want profit, workers demanding fair pay, and managers looking for status. But externally, the demands are wildly different. Customers are out there demanding high quality at fair prices. Governments want their tax revenue. Communities want jobs, but absolutely no pollution. And banks, well, they really just want their loans repaid on time. And that sets the stage for section 5, the stakeholder tug-of-war. What happens when these goals inevitably collide? Let's actually see this in action. I want you to imagine a company has decided to significantly expand its local factory.
Now on paper, sitting in a boardroom, this sounds like a fantastic idea. But out in the real world, it immediately sparks a massive crisis.
Right off the bat, we see a massive clash. The owners are absolutely thrilled. They're pushing hard for the expansion because they are chasing long-term profit and growth. But the local community? No way. They fiercely oppose it. To them, a bigger factory doesn't equal profit. It equals heavy trucks, relentless noise, and pollution right in their backyards. And the tension doesn't even stop at the property line. This tug-of-war exists entirely inside the company, too. Managers might be pushing hard for the expansion, knowing a massive new facility brings them more status and a fatter paycheck. But the workers on the factory floor, they are terrified. A brand new, modernized factory usually means bringing in highly efficient, automated machines that could literally replace their jobs in a heartbeat. So the absolutely crucial point here is the resolution, which almost always comes down to compromise. Because all these different stakeholders want fundamentally different things, their goals are going to constantly conflict. Managers find themselves stuck right in the middle of this incredibly messy real-world balancing act. They have to carefully navigate these waters and compromise to keep as many of these groups happy as possible. If they don't, they risk losing their workforce, infuriating their investors, or facing a massive boycott from the community. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative challenge. How on earth will a business balance its profit with its people? We've seen that business objectives evolve over time, shifting from mere survival to really complex growth. But a company that only chases that financial surplus while entirely ignoring its community or its workers, it might not survive that stakeholder tug-of-war in the long run. So as you look around at the businesses you interact with every single day, from the products you buy to the places you work, you gotta ask yourself, which side of the rope are they pulling hardest on?